The phone rang at 2:14 a.m., cutting through the darkness like a razor. Unknown number. I answered anyway. A man's voice, cold, confident, carrying a threat that made the air thicken. "We have your daughter," he said. "Forget she ever existed." Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. My daughter, taken from her college dorm, vanished as if the world had stopped. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. Finally I spoke, my voice calm, deliberate, flat. "You've made a grave mistake." A laugh, low and cruel, came from the other end. "Oh, and why is that?" "Because I am the man the Pentagon calls Ghost," I said. Click. The line went dead. I stared at the shadows in my living room, listening to the clock tick like a countdown to hell. Fear didn't rise. Rage did. A slow burn under my ribs. A storm caged in my chest. 60 minutes. That's all I gave him. At 2:15 a.m., the second phone lit up. Secure line. FBI director. His voice shook through the speaker. "Ghost, what the hell are you doing? Stand down, for God's sake." I was already gone. Every mission I'd ever run had rules, boundaries, lines I couldn't cross. But family wasn't part of those rules. Retirement had been an illusion, a mask I wore for 2 decades. I had folded into civilian life, blending in like smoke. But ghosts don't vanish, they wait. I thought of her quiet smile, the way she argued with professors, the stubborn determination in her eyes. My little girl was now a pawn in someone else's game, leverage against me. And in that realization, the betrayal sank in, not from strangers, but from someone who knew me. They didn't guess, they knew. Every late-night text she had ignored, every sudden absence, every time she smiled a little too perfectly, it all clicked. Someone had studied me, plotted my reaction, predicted my next move. This wasn't random, this was meticulous. And the knife in my back? It had been placed by someone who understood where to drive it best. I didn't shout, I didn't rage outwardly, I moved. Satellite feeds, burner phones, surveillance grids, the things only a ghost could access. Each second passed with surgical precision. Every keystroke, every silent calculation brought me closer. My pulse was ice, my thoughts were fire. I thought of her tied up somewhere, blindfolded, terrified, imagining her small voice whispering, "Will my father come?" I would. But not as a father, as something worse.
The data didn't lie. Patterns emerged from chaos. Old warehouse near the docks, a van rerouted off-grid, burner phones lighting up and vanishing. I traced everything, a hunter threading the maze laid by someone who wanted me trapped. I remembered missions from decades ago, the calm before storms, the patience in silence. Ghost missions weren't won by brute force, but by knowing every second mattered. And this was no different. I moved quietly, leaving no trace, yet leaving everything connected. My home, my office, even my daughter's dorm were pieces on a board only I could see. 60 minutes passed, like eternity. Each tick of the clock tightened the storm in my chest. At 35 minutes, I accessed a live feed from inside the warehouse. There she was, blindfolded, hands bound. But beside her wasn't a stranger. My stomach sank as the camera revealed the face I trusted the most. My wife, whispering, leaning close to the kidnapper, smiling. Betrayal isn't something you anticipate. It hits cold, precise, cutting deeper than a gunshot. It wasn't ransom, it wasn't chaos, it was her. Every unexplained absence, every hidden message, every seemingly innocent smile, lies layered upon lies. I didn't charge in. I didn't pull a weapon. I had one move left. The FBI director. I fed him coordinates, codes, proof. Let the law do what I could not. I was the ghost in the shadows, unseen. And when the raid came, the truth was mine to witness. They stormed the warehouse. My daughter wasn't a victim. She was cuffed, screaming, her eyes finding mine across the chaos. Wide, betrayed. And I said nothing. The director looked at me, confused, heart racing. Ghost, what? I shook my head slowly. I let her drown in the revelation that I had known all along. That every carefully laid trap, every whisper she thought she hid, I had predicted. Her screams echoed, but my ears only heard the rhythm of victory, the methodical closure of a mission. This wasn't a father-daughter reunion. It was an operation completed, a betrayal dissected, and a lesson delivered. I stepped forward only after they took her away. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing, but my mind wasn't there. It was still in the grids, in the feeds, in the memory of every lie, every manipulation. People think the worst pain comes from loss. They're wrong. The worst pain is revelation. The moment the mask slips and you see who was beside you all along. I held her, but not like a father, like a ghost observing the living, like someone who had seen the game unfold from start to finish.
I thought of missions long past, each operation a lesson in patience, betrayal, and survival. I remembered the desert heat, the jungle nights, the silence before a storm of bullets. In each mission, rules mattered, lines were drawn, limits existed. But family? Family changed everything. I replayed her childhood, scraped knees, quiet laughter, stubborn arguments at the dinner table. She had been the bright spark, always testing boundaries, always curious, and now that spark was being used against me. I remembered my wife before this, the warmth, the soft laugh, the late-night whispers. Every memory now a weapon turned inward. I had loved her, trusted her, believed in the family I built. And now, the betrayal wasn't just a knife, it was a scalpel, precise, calculated, delivered where it hurt the most. Yet I felt no grief, no sorrow. Ghosts don't mourn. They analyze, they dissect, they prepare. Every move I made in that hour followed the rules I had written long ago. Observation first, emotion second. Patience, precision, invisibility. Every keystroke, every satellite ping, every phone trace was part of a symphony only I could conduct. When the raid ended and the chaos settled, I walked away unnoticed. My daughter was safe, my mission complete, but the betrayal lingered like smoke in my lungs. I had survived decades of combat, countless enemies, and impossible odds. But this intimate betrayal was the sharpest weapon. I didn't scream, I didn't act out, I simply filed it away. Each revelation, each lie, another operation completed. Ghosts don't grieve, they endure, they wait, they strike only when necessary. Later, in the quiet of my home, I sat in shadows, watching my daughter sleep. She was oblivious to the storm that had just passed, to the web she had woven, to the truths she had triggered. I didn't forgive her, not fully, but I understood the rules of the game now.
She had learned the hard way that ghosts don't disappear. They wait. People say revenge is bitter, but revenge is clarity. I didn't act out of hate. I acted out of inevitability. I had prepared for this moment for decades, and now it had unfolded exactly as it should. The phone rang again at 3:22 a.m. Unknown number. I ignored it. Ghosts don't answer calls. They wait for the right ones. I looked at the city outside my window. Dark, silent, unaware. And I smiled a little. Tonight I became something more than a father. I became the reckoning, the shadow, the lesson. I had raised the dead, and they would never forget. Because I am Ghost, and ghosts never forgive. They endure, they plan, and they strike. Family isn't a rule. Loyalty isn't guaranteed. Betrayal can come from the ones you trust most. But ghosts write their own rules. And tonight I did. I didn't mourn. I didn't weep. I didn't question the choices I made. I simply observed the aftermath, like a general surveying a battlefield. Lessons were learned. Games were won. Betrayers were exposed. And the ghost walks on, silent, unseen, waiting for the next move.